And this has become common in the Muslim society, that people even growing up in this country, that they may be married, but they only enter upon their spouses to have a child. And then they have their mistresses to do whatever they want to do, because they don't seem to understand the concept of marriage. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated it clearly inside the Quran, that they are your spouses, and come to them any which way you like. فَأْتُوا حَرْثَكُمْ أَنَّمَا شِئْتُمْ. Come to your wife whichever way you want, إِلَّا الدُّبُرِ, except for from the behind. This is the Quran. So when people shy away from topic and say, look, that Islam doesn't talk about these topics, this is incorrect. The Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah is clearly stating about the role of how you enter upon your spouses, that they are a tilth, they are a fertile land for you. Enter the land whichever way you want. And that's why you find even amongst the companions asking in detailed questions about how to enter upon their spouses, how to behave. And that's why we find that there's only one man, the Prophet Muhammad, that his internal affairs have been exposed to the whole of humanity. Li'ibra, for a lesson and an understanding, and for us to take heed from that. If you read from many of his ahadith, that he fondled with his wives, he kissed his wives, he held his wives, he played with his wives. To show what? Does that take anything away from his manhood? No. It shows us the lessons of how a man should behave towards his wife. The way that he or she should conduct herself, even to the extent that they would bathe with one another. And even though some ulama have gone into discussion about this, but just to highlight the issue of the way of the relationship between the husband and the wife. And we find that this essence of being in pairs is clearly been mentioned inside the Quran. وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Everything has been created in pairs, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ, that you may take heed from this. Likewise in Surah Yasin, سُبْحَانَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْأَزْوَاجَ كُلَّهَا. Glorified be Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's created everything in pairs. مِمَّا تُنْبِتُ الْأَرْضِ, what comes out of the earth, وَمِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, and from amongst your own selves, and from that which you don't know. So this zawjiyah of everything being inside pairs is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why we find that inside many ahadith, يَا مَعْشَرَ الشَّبَابِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمْ الْبَاءَةَ فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ. Whoever amongst you, O young men, has the ability to get married, then they should get married. Whoever has the ability and the capacity, they should get married. And likewise we find in the hadith, مَا رَوَاهُ Imam Bukhari, talking about the three men who said that they're going to give up everything. They're going to pray every single night, one of them, and not break his prayer. The other one is going to fast every single day. And the third one said, I'm going to remain away from women. And then when he returned, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said, are you the ones who said such and such? Verily I pray and I break my prayer. I fast and I break my fast. And I indulge and I enter upon women. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Whoever turns away from my sunnah has got nothing to do with me. Once again, they're highlighting the fact that there is no monasticism in Al-Islam. There is no behavior of this to remain away from women. This is a natural creation which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. This is the condition which Allah has placed inside a human being. That they have this raghbah, they have this zeal, they have this desire to be entering upon the opposite spouse. And that's why we find that the way, the methodology of the prophets, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلًا مِّن قَبْلِكَ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُمْ أَزْوَاجًا وَذُرِّيًّا. This is from the way of the prophets, that we have sent messengers before you, and all of them married, and all of them had a genealogy, all of them had a lineage. And even Isa ibn Maryam, alayhim as-salam, that he will return and he will get married once again to fulfill the sunnah of all of the prophets. And we find that the importance of marriage, مَا رَوَاهُ Imam Bayhaqi, that whoever marries, when a servant of Allah marries, he has completed half of his religious obligations. And for the other half, he should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And only those people who are married can understand this hadith. You may feel that you are fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but your iman is only half complete. It is only until you complete the contract of marriage that you begin to develop full control over yourself, over your lust and your desires and your glances and your speech and everything. And the whole of your heart is concentrated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the sunnah that He has laid down inside bashar, inside the human being. And we find that this inclination has been mentioned inside the Quran as well. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ. That his craving and his desire has been placed inside human beings. And what are those craving things? An-nisa wal-baneen. The love of women and the love of children. And that's why we find in the hadith, تَزَوَّجُ الْوَدُودُ الْوَلُودُ. marry the loving and the fertile. For verily I will compete with the rest of the prophets on the day of judgment about the numerous amount of followers of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, aw kama qala sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so we find that this is the creation of al-insan. Ala ya'lamu man khalaq wa huwa al-latiful khabir. Does he not know what he has created? Wa huwa al-latiful khabir. And he is the most subtle and the aware. He has created insan in this form. He knows what his needs are. He knows what her needs are. Clearly been stated that these are the needs of a man and a need of a woman. However, we find that if we don't begin to address this topic, that the same woman or the concept of marriage tends to become a fitna. مَا تَرَكْتُ بَعْدِ فِتْنَةً أَدَرَّ عَلَى الرِّجَالِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. The most greatest fitna upon human being, upon mankind, is fitnatun nisa, is the fitna of women. Likewise, find another hadith, that the great fitna that hit Bani Israel, كانت في النساء, used to be in women. فَاتَّقُوا الدُّنْيَا وَاتَّقُوا النِّسَاءِ. Fear this dunya and fear women. Now these are the things that will take you, with all credit to women, these are the things that will take you away from the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how many human beings, or how many amongst the men, or amongst mankind, have given up their deen for the sake of a woman, given up their ibadah, was-salah, and everything that they used to do for the sake of a woman, given it all up, sacrificed the whole of their life just for a single woman. And we find that the Prophet Muhammad himself stated, حُبِّبَ عِلَيَّ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ مَا رَوَاهُ Imam Dawood. That the best things amongst this dunya which have been made pleasing to me, الطِّيبُ وَالنِّسَاءِ, beautiful smell and women, and the tenderness and the coolness of my eyes has been placed inside as-salah. This is sallallahu alayhi wasallam highlighting this point, that this is the essence and the love that every single human being holds inside their heart. And if we go towards the haram methodology, that if you take a husband and a wife inside one room, inside a hotel for example, and you take another man and a woman in another room in the same hotel, both side to side, one of them is indulging in halal and the other is in haram. What is the difference? The difference is aqdun nikah, the contract of marriage. That is what separates these two people. That's what separates al-ajr, separates al-reward, and separates al-ithm. Because we find وَفِي بُدْءِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةً, and to place yourself properly into your spouse, sadaqah is a charity. The companions asked, how could it be a charity? How is it that this animalistic behavior, if it is deemed right, that even animals behave like this, could be a sadaqah? If you placed it in haram, it's been a sin upon you. And if you placed it in halal, it's a reward for you. So clearly, even this affair of to behave in this manner, there is sadaqah written down for you. Charity has been written down for you for behaving in this manner. And we find that these people who commit this abominable action, and many of the ulama have written that one of the most evil sins after al-ishraku billahi azza wa jal, after committing shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is az-zina, is to commit az-zina, to commit illicit sexual behavior. To behave in this manner is one of the sins that destroys you in this dunya and destroys you in the akhirah as well. And clearly, the disease of AIDS which is spreading amongst this community, amongst the whole of this community, upon the whole of this earth, is clearly a sign upon their lewdness, their fahsha, their evil and immoral behavior, that a sin has been thrown upon these people. And we find that these few minutes of pleasure, as one Arab scholar, he mentioned in one of his lectures, that is, an Arab person travelled abroad to the great United States of America, and when he entered into this hotel, that a woman was looking at him, and perchance we know that most people who have not been exposed to this type of society, he was interested in her. So he called her over, offered her a drink, began to converse with her, and then he went upstairs and did whatever he had to do. When he woke up in the morning, and he said, Aina Habibi, Aina Habibi, where's my loved one, where's my loved one? He looked around, and she had gone. He walked around the room, went into the bathroom, and there he saw with red lipstick written on the mirror, welcome to the world of AIDS. Welcome to the world of AIDS.